Hi, everyone. This is Mr. Bush, and I'm here to talk to you about Washington's farewell address. That's right. In just 3 short days, we've covered over Washington's domestic policies, foreign policies, and now, after his second term, George Washington is finally bidding farewell to the country that he has served over 40 years for. George Washington decided that he was definitely going to step down from being president at the end of his second term. During his announcement of this decision, he thought he should give some advice about politics based on what had been happening in his administration over the previous few years. See, Washington wants to tell the world he is done being the first president. Also, while he's got their attention, Americans should stop letting political parties tear them apart and picking their favorite foreign countries. In the first part of his farewell address, George Washington kind of does the rendition of the Terminator of Hasta la vista, baby. At this time, it has come for the United States to finally pick a new president. But Washington has openly admitted that he is not going to be one of those options. This decision wasn't made lightly. Washington thought a lot about whether this was the right move. Washington had wanted to retire before the previous election, but between the political situation in the country and the people telling him to stay, he stayed on for that second term. He believes that he has tried his best to step up a government with his limited capabilities, which also means it's okay for him to step down. If any good has come from the Washington's presidency, he admits it's due to the people's support. He claims that before he leaves, Washington wants to leave some words of advice for his fellow citizens, out of love, of course. In his first suggestion and his first piece of advice is to try to avoid parties. See, Americans need to remember that being Americans is more important than their attachment or their love to their local regions. What I mean by that is that the North benefits from the South because it gets materials it needs for its industry. And the South benefits from the trade and naval protection provided by the northern states. The eastern states benefit from the western states because it has new markets for its products it's trying to sell. And then the west benefits from getting the eastern states' products and materials as well as its own military protection. So basically, every region benefits from being united with the other regions. People who go against the law help produce groups among people, which eventually creates groups within the government as well. And so, if the people are frustrated, they just got to be patient. See, this is a new government system that needs time and practice to see what works and what doesn't, and to function as it's supposed to be. And if people, because it is human nature to divide into groups and eventually seek out strong people who will lead those factions, those political parties could lead to disorder, fighting amongst each other, and opening up the country to foreign influences and control by those foreign countries. So if people are unsatisfied with the Constitution, that's why the Constitution has the right to amend itself. They could use the amendments to change it rather than overturn the government, which would probably destroy their freedom. In Washington's second piece of advice is don't incur any debt. Don't gain any debt. Don't have all of these bills that you need to pay off. He says to be careful not to spend too much of for the government to spend too much of the taxpayers' money, but also to be aware that taxes are still necessary for the government for revenue to kind of build up enough money to pay off the things that they need to, which is the ever-growing national debt, or what they owe. The third and final piece of information is no foreign alliances. You should be nice to all the countries, but do not create long-standing permanent alliances with them. Allying with one country over another makes you kind of their slave, and it pulls you into conflicts. You end up getting into fights you don't have really a fight in. Plus, you get the perks that make other countries even more upset. The United States should promote economic ties with Europe, but not political ones. So you can trade with each other, you can make business with one another, but that's it. Europe has a lot of issues among its countries, and it and don't concern the United States. So it's silly to think that the United States would really get the benefit from allying from another country. Washington is still convinced that declaring neutrality in 1793 with this proclamation of neutrality was the right move to make at that time because again, this country is new and it needs time to practice. So, honestly, in finishing off this lesson about Washington's farewell address, Washington says he's aware that he has made mistakes, but he hopes that because of his 45 years of service, that the mistakes will be forgotten overall. He looks forward to retiring and living under the laws of the free country of the United States of America. And Washington pretty much breaks it down clearly. One, he's out of there, and thank goodness. Two, don't let political parties be a thing. Don't even pay any attention to them. Three, pay off your debts because, in a quote from a religious text, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. And three, don't pick favorites when it comes to other countries. Don't form alliances with them. Buy stuff from them and get them to buy stuff from you, but don't make friends. And this speech represents Washington's parting words of advice to an audience that he is not really sure that's going to listen to him. He claims that he's not that great, but he really tried. And then he tries to get people to behave better in government instead of getting a lot of infighting because of the problems. Well, as you can probably know through current situations, you can't say he didn't warn them.